yes, the opposition go to town for a victory. Let me explain the procedure in the ICC. Slides, please. Slides, please. Now, this is the overview of the procedure in the International Criminal Court. There is first communication filed with the Office of the Prosecutor. From the initiation or from the filing of the communication, the prosecutor may conduct preliminary examination, which is where we're at. I reiterate, the preliminary examination is not a formal preliminary investigation. The office of the preliminary examination is only to determine if there is reasonable basis to proceed to a preliminary investigation. After a preliminary investigation, the prosecutor would have to go to the pretrial chamber of the court for confirmation of charges before the charges can even be filed in the court. The pretrial chamber is an innovation. It's the only chamber found in any court in this planet. It was put in place in the Rome Statute to persuade countries like the United States to sign up. They have not signed up. And the objection of American authorities is the objective of the pretrial chamber is to hold the prosecutor liable, because under American tradition, a prosecutor is elected, whereas a prosecutor in the ICC is not elected. So I repeat, no one should claim a victory because we're only in the stage of preliminary examination. What happens in the preliminary investigation? Next slide, please. So this is basically the procedure. When there is a communication filed, it is received by the prosecutor, then it proceeds to preliminary examination. The matters inquired upon in preliminary investigation are as follows. Next slide, please. Go ahead, please. The prosecutor will make an assessment on the basis of collection and verification of all information available from all sources. Take note, there will be no formal investigation to be conducted in the country because at the level of the preliminary examination, where the court does not include a budget for the prosecutor to come to the Philippines because it is not yet a preliminary investigation. Now, the objective is to determine if there is reasonable basis to proceed with a formal investigation. What are the matters to be inquired upon? Number one, is there temporal jurisdiction? The court will only exercise temporal jurisdiction over all acts that happen after a country or a state party had become a member of the Rome Statute. We became a party to the Rome Statute during the administration of President Noynoy Aquino. Therefore, everything that happened before the time that we became a party will not be considered by the court. It must have happened in the territory of a member state. And furthermore, the more important issue is admissibility. Remember, the International Criminal Court is not a court of first instance. All countries to the ICC signed up to it because they wanted the court to be a court of last resort. This is implemented by the principle of complementarity, which says that the International Criminal Court will not exercise jurisdiction unless domestic courts are unable or unwilling to exercise jurisdiction. There is inability when civil courts are not functioning, as in the case of Somalia. There is unwillingness when there is immunity statute. Yes, we have immunity for our presidents, but they subsist only during their tenure in office. As we have shown the world, 2 of our past presidents went to jail immediately after their terms of office. I refer to that to show that there is no unwillingness in the Philippines because obviously a president can be prosecuted for any acts committed after his term of office. And that is why it is the position of the president that the case is inadmissible. On the merits, the president is charged with alleged crimes against humanity. The elements of crimes against humanity are that there must be either widespread or systematic attack directed against civilian populations with knowledge that it was being directed against civilian populations. The acts attributed to the president are killings in relation to the ongoing drug war. We note, though, that the ongoing war against drug is an exercise of police power in dealing with the pernicious problem of drug trafficking in the Philippines. As a sovereign state, the Philippines has the inherent responsibility to protect its current and future generations by effectively addressing threats to the safety and well-being of its citizens, such as the proliferation of illegal drugs. Because the war against drug is a lawful, legitimate police operation, it cannot be characterized as an attack against civilian populations because they are civilians. No? It is a lawful use of force, and therefore we submit likewise that on the merits, the element of directing an attack against civilian populations is simply lacking. We view, of course, this decision of the prosecutor as a waste of the court's time and resources. Again, as a matter of sovereign consent, we gave our consent to be a member of the ICC, subject to, number one, the court being a court of last resort, and that secondly, subject to the principle of complementarity, and number three, that not all crimes can be cognizable by the court because only crimes which are of the gravest nature, greatest affront against the international community should be subject to the jurisdiction of the court. The President and I met about this extensively for more than 2 hours last night. The President has said that he also welcomes this preliminary examination because he is sick and tired of being accused of the commission of crimes against humanity. This is an opportunity for him to prove that this is not subject to the court's jurisdiction because of both complementarity, that domestic courts, and the fact that we have a domestic international humanitarian law statute in our jurisdiction are reasons enough for the court not to exercise jurisdiction. On the merit, he of course stands by his position that he swore an oath to protect this republic against all threats to national security, and he noted that the war on drugs was characterized not by him but by his predecessor, Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, as a threat against national security. Clearly, the use of force against a threat against national security cannot be an attack against civilian populations because they form part of civilian populations. Questions, please.
RTVM, okay na audio? RTVM, okay? Wala audio kasi na. Question? Rose Novinario.
Sir, yung diniscuss niyo po, ito yung kasong isinampa sa tungkol kay Matubato and
Hindi po yan kaso. It's a communication. Wala pong kaso pa because there is only a preliminary examination. So if they think they have indicted the president, that's so wrong. They wish.
So may sakali magpatawag po ng kinatawan ng Philippine government, sino po yung posible magpunta ron?
Wala pong ipapatawag dyan because earlier in my slide, in the assessment, it's just collection and verification of information. Wala pa pong kailangan pumunta doon, although our embassy in The Hague will in fact communicate the fact that the war against drug is a sovereign act and that our sovereign consent to become a member of the court is subject to the rule of complementarity, and that our courts are more than able and willing to exercise jurisdiction, as in fact there is a pending complaint against the killings allegedly attributed to the war on drugs pending in the Office of the Ombudsman, and that the Office of the Ombudsman has the power to recommend an impeachment, which if successful will lead to a criminal prosecution against the president.
Sir, sa palagay po ninyo, may kamay dito o may kinalaman dito yung kalaban sa politika locally ni Presidente?
In fact, sila pong behind this. Obviously, there's been concerted public relations initiative against the president, probably to coincide with February. Obviously, this is intended to embarrass the president, but the president is a lawyer. He knows what the procedures are. They will fail. The president has said that if need be, he will argue his case personally before the International Criminal Court.
Thank you.
Follow up. Joseph Morong. Microphone, please.